Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and today I'm going to go over a few quick tips to make sure that your next recording goes as smoothly and comes out with the best possible results so that you don't waste your time, or if you're going into a studio, waste your money. First thing you want to do is make sure that you're used to playing to a click track. A lot of guitarists kind of skip this. We play along with songs or we're just jamming, and especially during the writing process, not very often I have one of these on. But it is absolutely crucial that you are comfortable and capable of playing to a click track. The second part of that is have all the tempos laid out for each song that you want to be recording on that given day. That way you're not fussing about, messing around, wasting time trying to figure out the optimum tempo of whatever you're working on, and you can get right to work. The second thing is pretty obvious. Make sure whatever instruments you're going to be using are set up well, have fresh strings on them, and are intonated properly. If you're not familiar with how intonating a guitar works, it's really quite simple. You just want to make sure that when you get to the 12th fret here, it's going to ring true to the same note as when you play the string open. If it is sharp, you want to tighten or move the bridge saddle closer towards the actual back of the body. If the note is flat, you want to give it some slack and move the saddle the other direction. And please, I beg of you, do not skip this step. Otherwise, you will not make any friends with whoever is mixing or engineering on your current project. Now, the third tip might seem like something that's fairly common sense. However, you would be amazed how many times I have witnessed people not do this before going into a recording session that they were paying money in a studio to do. And that is know your own material inside and out and be able to play it really damn well. It doesn't matter if you're playing basic cowboy chords or you're some virtuoso shredder. When you're going into the studio or you're sitting at home in front of your computer, a lot of people do that these days with great results, you want to make sure that that time is not wasted working on the actual part, rather recording the actual part. Tip number 4 is universal whether you're recording at home or in a recording studio, and that is to make sure that you have one of these, and this is an external hard drive. The reason why these are so useful, and quite frankly, they're really necessary depending on how big of a session you're really working on here. The first benefit is it takes a lot of the stress off of your computer. Your computer's already going to be running the DAW or the recording software that you're using to do the work. By having an external hard drive, all of the sessions and all of the audio files will be written to that. So it's just distributing some of the work instead of it all being on here on the computer. Some of it's going over here to the drive. That's really good. That will also cut down on the likelihood of the software crashing mid-recording, and you definitely don't want that to happen, especially if you're having a great take. There are a few things more deflating than being 90% through a song or even halfway through a really good tracking session and having the software crip because of a DAE error. This is one way to fight against that. In a recording studio, it's great to have one of these and bring it with you because first of all, you bring it in, they load it onto their computer, you're up and running really quick so long as you formatted it correctly. Depending on the studio, it's going to vary. You can use PTX if you're using Pro Tools. You can use PTS. You can use AAF. If any of that sounds foreign to you, don't worry about it. This is only for people that are going into a studio. But the other great thing is when you're done at the end of the day, you can save the sessions that you did right back onto that hard drive. When you get home, you can relive everything. Maybe you can hear a new part that next time you go in, or even if you have the capability to do it at home, you can add it in and make the song even better. And before we get into some specifics about home and studio recording, the final thing that applies to both, take this thing and shut it off. Don't put it on silent. Don't put it on Do Not Disturb. Shut the thing off. You want all distractions out the window. If you're seriously recording, doesn't matter where you are. You want to have your mind and your body totally involved and totally dedicated to that task. Now, if you're recording at home, there are a plethora of ways that you can do so. You can do everything via a Line 6 Helix. You can do everything through a plugin like a Neural DSP. If you're somebody that works in the box, your life is going to be pretty easy for the most part, but I would still recommend having a dry take alongside with the wet take. The wet take would be with all the effects and amp simulations on it. A dry take is just going to be thought of as a DI in that you could perhaps maybe reamp later through a real amp, or stack with a different kind of plugin or a different kind of sound to complement the original one. However, if you do intend on using microphones at home, I would say it's pretty much mandatory to have some sort of DI signal going back into your interface that's simultaneously recording along with whatever you're miking your amplifier up with, for a few reasons. To begin with here, what if you just flat out don't like the sound of what you recorded due to microphone choice or microphone placement? No other way around that unless you have a DI signal and you can reamp it. Alternatively, what if there's some external noise that happens in the middle of the recording that bleeds through into the microphone, like a dog going crazy, cars honking horns, your neighbors decide they're gonna have World War III and it gets that loud, and this has happened to me in the past that it gets into the microphone. That sucks. If you have a DI signal going to your interface, you're not gonna have to worry about that because your take's still gonna be preserved. You just reamp it or use a plugin. The way I do this is I use the Walrus Audio canvas at the end of my pedal board. So my cable goes into the pedal board, the XLR out from the Walrus Audio goes into the interface, the TRS out goes right into the actual amplifier to provide the sound, and I'm good to go. It's just one way to protect yourself against things that you don't have all the control over in the world. And a final piece of advice specific to recording at home, don't be afraid to commit to a sound that you really like. If it sounds really good to your ears, just go with it. There's no need to menu dive, and especially with plugins, you could get yourself into a black hole where you're not gonna realize how much time you just wasted tinkering with things, and before you know it, all that time that you had allotted to sitting and recorded has just been wasted trying to find the perfect sound. Remember what we just talked about with the DI track? You can always have somebody tinker with it or tinker with it yourself after the fact, but your main priority is to get the track down to begin with. And now some final pieces of advice for people that are actually going to be going into a recording studio. The first is talk to your engineer well before you actually go into record. This is going to be extremely vital to making sure that they have the best ability to make whatever you are hearing in your head come into that session and eventually become the song that you envision. The more that you can communicate, the more they'll have a really good idea of what outboard gear to use, what microphones to use, how many microphones to use, what kind of amplifiers to use, all that kind of stuff. Giving reference songs of kind of sounds that you really like on guitar is also really helpful, but really just having a conversation, starting to develop the relationship and the trust with your engineer will go a long way to producing you a better result for your record or your EP or your LP, whatever it is that you're going into work on. And when the day presents itself that you're actually booked to go into the studio, make sure that you're on time, or preferably even a little bit early. If you're early, some pros to that, the engineer might already be there, maybe they let you in, that reduces some of your load in time, meaning you get all your instruments in, your gear, your amps, whatever, and that's going to give you more time to actually work and enjoy the experience. You're not going to feel rushed, whereas if you show up 15, 20, half hour, hour, I've seen up to 5 hours late to a session, that's not going to exactly set you up for success. So take it seriously, get there like it is something that matters to you, because it should matter to you. You took the initiative to spend your hard-earned money to go in and record. Don't blow it. Don't blow it. The last thing I'm going to tell you is, when you're not the one recording and it's somebody else in the booth or somebody else doing drums or somebody else doing their guitar parts, be attentive. Don't be staring at your phone taking a break, because sometimes you want to be able to give constructive feedback or really positive feedback. There are times I've seen people that are, they're really hesitant, they're really not feeling it. Maybe it's their first time in, and they're just straight up nervous or anxious about the whole thing. If you show that you're engaged, you give positive vibes, or you give criticism in a good way, like, not gonna demean the person and put them even into a deeper hole, it might open them up and you might even get a better performance out of somebody else, as well as it's going to help your overall song and your happiness with the finished product. Because if you're just staring at your phone, not paying attention while somebody else is doing their guitar part, yeah, that sounded great, Bob. When you go back and you listen, you're like, man, it didn't sound great at all. I wish I said something. Yeah, if you were paying attention, maybe you would have, maybe you should have. And in that case, it's too late at that point. And regardless of where you're going to be recording or what gear you're going to be using, have fun, enjoy it. It's an awesome experience. The only thing better is playing out live, to me at least. I love it. It's a great way to build rapport with your friends, with the engineer, and it's a cool way to just put something onto tape or onto a hard drive these days that you can share with everyone that you know forever. And even if it's just your family, it's something cool that you can always have and point to and say, yeah, I did that, and you can be proud of it, because it is something to be proud of when you finish a record. However, that's all we have for today. If you found this useful, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you're new around here. In the comments down below, if I missed something or you have something that you would like to share as a recommendation or as a tip to somebody else who's going into this situation, feel free to leave that down below as well. Take it easy, play your guitar. I gotta get ready to record some guitars of my own, so I'm out of here. But thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.